Medical disclaimer. This podcast is intended for educational purposes only and does not serve as medical advice. Kate and John are not medical professionals. This podcast is not intended to diagnose, treat, or prevent any illness. Always consult your physician before making lifestyle changes. Welcome back to the Illuminated Path. This is episode 12. What are we talking about today?
We are continuing our conversation on stress management. So this episode is going to be focused on stress management, things that you can do for your mind.
Yep.
So a lot to get into. We've talked about some of these things in previous episodes, but I'm excited.
Yeah. How's the week?
The week is good, but it actually hasn't really been a week since we recorded
No.
episode 11. So, normally we do record as many days in advance as we can, a week or 5 days or so. Since we had to redo episode 11 3 times, it's only been a day.
Yeah.
So minor updates. We went to, and I didn't mention this, but a couple days ago, we went to a small group meditation practice, which was really nice. It was like a guided meditation. I loved it.
It was really cool because it was like the whole point of the practice was like connectedness to yourself. I've never
like really being in your body.
Yeah, but like even the wording, like the person who wrote the meditations was seriously studying the kind of messaging and verbiage and everything that they were saying.
Mm.
And I really liked it. I really liked it. And I've never kind of seen anything like that where we actually walked around and tried to focus our attention on our entire body.
Yeah.
And every time you moved, you lost it. And it was really interesting.
Yeah. And then the only other thing, I had lunch with my friend. My friend travels a lot, so he's going to be gone for like 4 or 5 months again. So we hung out real quick, and I'll see him in the spring.
He's like the definition of a vagabond, is it?
I don't know. What
It's
does
not
that
a
mean?
nomad. He just like randomly travels and then goes and sets up shop. And then he's like, yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I did a couple months here.
Yeah.
I'll go somewhere else now. I have so much respect for that. That's such a amazing way to live.
Yeah. He loves it. So it's awesome.
Yeah.
How about you?
Not much.
Yeah.
I have a song I've been working on for a few weeks now, and with everything going on with the podcast and our courses and education, we're really kind of doing a lot behind the scenes, so I haven't had a lot of time. But yesterday I just got back into my audio workstation. I started recording this song that I'm working on. It feels good. It's honestly been many, many weeks since I recorded, and I still don't know what I'm going to do as far as vocals because I had to move my office, but it's good to, start composing something.
Yeah.
So let's get into it. So we talked about the body last time, and we have some really important discussions today in terms of managing the mental aspect of stress. So do you want to kind of open us up with meditation?
Yeah, so we started talking about meditation a little bit in the last episode, but one thing I wanted to bring up before we get into like how to meditate, how to incorporate this in your life is every single person I have ever talked to about meditation has said, I have a monkey mind. I really struggle with meditation. I can't focus. And I know we've also, I think, mentioned this previously, but there's really this misconception that like our mind is controlling us and that we can't do anything about it. I am 100% guilty for, before I learned how to meditate and started practicing it. I used to say that. I used to be like, my mind just goes crazy and I have nothing to do. Like I can't fix it. I just constantly thinking and ruminating and overthinking. And I know that so many people have that as well, but that is the point of meditation. If you are that person, you are the exact perfect candidate to try practicing meditation in whatever way works for you. So we really have to intentionally take control of our mind, because if we don't, it's just going to run.
Yeah. I mean, you don't run your mind will run you. And, personally, everything I went through with years of medication and just, so many things that didn't do anything. Um, but I kind of frequently equate my mind to old film reels. I think I've talked to you about this, where like there's a strip of film, every box
Mhm.
is kind of like a thought, and the physical reality is just one more box to me. So like I frequently will talk to people and I space out and I have 16 conversations going on in my head, like, and I think that's really what I want to drive home. Like if you are someone who you're very busy upstairs, you've got a lot of mental chatter, you are exactly the person who needs to be practicing meditation, because it's, when I meditated an hour a night, sure, I never had so much peace and calm in my head.
Mhm.
I don't have an hour to meditate anymore. And that's tough. But the 20 minutes that I am able to put toward it is still very beneficial. So
Mhm.
there's varying levels to it, there's different ways to do it. But ultimately, everybody has a lot of mental chatter.
Yeah. It's about, like I said, controlling your thoughts. We have over 60,000 thoughts a day. And so it's really about being present and allowing yourself to, bypass some of those thoughts and not take every single one on as there's a million going on at the same time. And
Observe.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then kind of let it go.
I will say, when I was someone who was led by ego and kind of much more of a toxic person, I guess, I would listen to my mental chatter way too much.
Mhm.
Like every single thought that came up, I would assume it was true. There were tons of hypotheticals I was always running through, and I would convince myself that they were, the actual reality that was happening, and they weren't. Um, so if you are someone who runs through hypotheticals, for me too, I still do it, but like with worst case scenarios, um, it's it's a practice that helps you start to observe and be aware of that and not let that have such a big impact in your life.
Right. And it's about not living in your head and living in the present moment and realizing like you do have control over the thoughts that you choose to believe, agree with, and take action upon.
Yeah. So I want to clarify. You're observing the thoughts that you have. Your control comes in the thoughts you direct attention to.
Right. Yeah. And then so as we mentioned, there are so many ways you can meditate. And, John said he's meditated for an hour or for 20 minutes, but it doesn't even have to be that long either. You can still gain benefits from a 5-minute practice, but
Even a minute and a half has been shown to help.
it's about, again, that consistency.
Yeah.
So, just to go through some different options of meditation, things you can try. One of them we mentioned in the previous episode is really more of like a breath focused practice where you are just either counting your breaths in some way, making the inhale shorter than the exhale, or focusing on the words inhale, exhale.
Yeah. You can also do equal breathing, which won't not necessarily activate your parasympathetic as easily, but it's a much more straightforward, beginner friendly. And that's literally just making your inhale and exhale the same duration.
Mhm. You kind of initially started with candle meditation.
I swear by a candle meditation. I think that so many people get caught up on like, what meditation am I doing? What kind of meditation? And candle meditation is like the simplest, most straightforward way to meditate. It particularly being that you don't even actually close your eyes.
Right.
So all you do, you light a candle and you watch that candle and you literally stare at the wick, the little red spot where the flame is sitting. And what happens is the flame will kind of dance around, but as you focus in and hyper focus on that spot, your eyes will start to like fade out the periphery. So your peripheral vision will fade out, and all you will see is that flame. And it's called becoming one with the flame. And
Mhm.
you literally just allow yourself to sit there and have that flame be your entire attention. Um, and that one's particularly easier because if you are dealing with a lot of mental chatter, you just have that visual. Like visual stimuli is much more kind of captivating than being able to say to yourself, okay, come back to your breath.
Mhm.
Whereas it's this sort of enticing flame that you're staring at.
Yeah.
So candle meditation is great. I always recommend that to people who are kind of struggling to get started.
Yeah. There's also guided meditations. There are so many free apps
Yep.
on your phone that offer this. You can go on YouTube.
If you're on YouTube, check out Jason Stevenson. I have had otherworldly meditations listening to him.
Yeah, so I mean, there's really no shortage of options to try. And if one of them you try to do it and it doesn't resonate, there's thousands, millions more at this point.
Yeah. And the other point I want to mention too is something you and I have talked about is meditation is the equivalent of exercising. Like you exercise for your body, you meditate for your mind.
Mhm.
It's again like take on that belief of like exercise is an optional, neither is meditation. It really is training your mind, and we'll get deeper into that in this episode, but the benefits of meditation are things you carry into your everyday life that make it much more enjoyable, much more fulfilling.
Yeah, I want to talk about some of the benefits, but what other meditation options do you want to?
I think visualization, because that's one that's really interesting because it's kind of meditation, but it's kind of like going back to being a kid and
Mhm.
using your imagination. So we've talked about visualization, particularly in the sense of creating a new manifestation and designing your life. But visualization allows you to create anything. You use your imagination. And the reason this is so important is as you start really conducting your mind and choosing the thoughts that you direct attention to, visualization is how you start to entertain them.
Right.
So if you're, I don't know, give me an example, like someone playing sports, you want to play at a higher league. Your your control of your thoughts could be starting to pay more attention to the thoughts where you get to that league. Your visualization would be experiencing those games or the feelings that you have and connecting with it. And because of that, visualization is kind of inherently intertwined with manifestation because you're really connecting to all that comes with that visualization.
Yeah. But in terms of meditating and visualization too, like if you are someone who feels like you're struggling with your mind wandering all over the place, like this is another way of being very intentional and thinking about whatever you want. Like picture yourself on a beach relaxing with no stress or cares in the world except listening to the ocean waves and reading your book.
Yeah.
Like put yourself in a place that makes you happy and focus your attention on that, and that can really put you into a wonderful meditative state and you'll just feel relieved after.
I also want to mention there's guided visualizations where you're
Yeah.
not necessarily creating something for your life so much as an experience that just feels good.
Right.
So a lot of them actually are like on the beach and they'll describe the waves to you and encourage you to start to think about how the sand feels in your toes and things like that, where it's really kind of putting you into a different place. And again, your mind doesn't know the difference. So if you're actually entertaining it, you're present with it, you're there, you will feel it in your body.
Mhm. You'll feel the relaxing effects.
Yeah.
Um, so benefits of meditation. We're talking about stress management, huge help in stress management.
Yeah.
But in addition, I mean, there's been so many studies more recently about meditation and the positive effects it can have on us. We're going to link an article that talks about benefits from meditation, such as helping with anxiety and depression, which again is tied to your stress and your nervous system,
Yep.
lowering your blood pressure, reducing pain, helping you with getting better sleep, or if you're struggling with insomnia, the symptoms of PTSD, as well as with anyone struggling with like ADHD and having a hard time. It just really helps with focus.
Yeah. I mean, that's the big thing I want to kind of emphasize is when you're stressed, a lot of times your mental chatter is working against you. You're usually having some sort of negative self-talk. When you're meditating more consistently, you're able to be more aware of that self-talk. You're also able to develop more of a capacity to not direct your attention on that self-talk. And again, where attention goes, energy flows. Where energy
No, you just said it.
Did I say it right? Where
Where it,
attention goes, energy flows.
yes.
So if you're focusing only on that, negative, stressful situation that is directing your energy toward that, you're creating that further.
Mhm.
Um, and again, like stress is a big component there, right? But anxiety too. You have a lot of mental chatter, meditation, and a meditation practice will really help you to not have such extreme hypotheticals and so many sort of things running through your head all the time.
Yeah, and overcoming the fears that are coming up.
Yeah. And, I will say too, I think a big part of that is people not being willing to sit down with their thoughts. Again, you kind of run from that conversation, and meditation really forces you to be there and have it.
Hmm.
Anything else on meditation?
I don't think so. Please give it a try.
Yeah. Meditation, like I said, it's really just not it's exercise for your mind. It's absolutely one of the greatest, healthiest things you can do for your brain.
Yeah.
Topic number 2 is kind of a cluster of topics, but they all sort of go together. So cut me off here because I have a lot of experience with these, so I'm just going to kind of run through them.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. So journaling, and that can be stream of consciousness writing. That can also just kind of be checking in with yourself, reading, and a gratitude practice. So, Kate mentioned we're going to have some links. We have a link, but I'm telling you, we're going to have a lot of links. So there's several links that'll be in the footnotes if you want to do some further research. Some of them are National Institute of Health. Some of them are just kind of a collection of sources. But the thing to understand is journaling, gratitude practices, and reading train your mind to reduce the clutter and the stress that you're feeling.
Mhm.
So I want to kind of explain some ways to do this. So stream of consciousness writing. Um, I try to do this every morning. Don't always make it happen, but it's the ideal. You sit down and you write whatever is on your mind. You really need to develop some awareness around this because you're not trying to say, oh, that's weird or whatever. Like whatever comes out, write it down. Um, and that could literally be 15 different thoughts just jumping all around.
Mhm.
So pick however many pages you're going to write, sit down and get it out. And I've learned about this more from the creative perspective of like you're getting out a lot of the clutter so that it doesn't come up later in your day.
Mhm.
When I heard that, I was like, "Nah, that's not actually how that works." But it is. It really like if I write all the crap that's on my mind in the morning, it doesn't come up later.
It's not crap.
Not crap, but just things that are flooding my head.
Mhm.
So stream of consciousness is a really powerful tool. If you're someone who likes to write, I can't recommend it enough.
Can I just add one
Yeah.
thing? So, also with stream of consciousness, it could be a practice where it's like a daily thing and just write out the most random things that are coming to mind.
Yeah.
But I've also done it in terms of like dealing with something specific that's
Mm,
bothering me.
absolutely.
And it's kind of like, writing a letter that you don't send to someone. Like,
Yeah.
if there's something that you're dealing with and you're having a difficult time, you're maybe stressed about it, like, you can just write all about that
Yeah.
And I've also done a practice where I've then gone and burned what I wrote, and it's kinda just a way of, like, feeling like you're letting it go.
Yeah. It's a very therapeutic way to just get anything off your chest,
Yeah.
whether that's, random or you're guiding it.
Mhm.
Yeah. Um, and so with that, you also have journaling. So I do my pages in the morning. That's my stream of consciousness, and then I do journaling. Journaling, I write this affirmation every time I journal. Every day in every way, I am getting better, better, and better. Um, that is a scientifically proven affirmation to help you heal. It initially was from someone called I believe his name was Emil Coué, and it was tweaked from the Silva mind control method to better, better, and better, kind of representing mind, body, and spirit.
Mhm.
So I write that, and then I write gratitude. I do three things that I'm grateful for. Gratitude, we've talked about this in the past, but it is a phenomenal practice. They Studies on gratitude have found, you're healthier, you're happier. There's a lot of interesting stuff, and in the articles we're going to link, there's many things. So just to name a few, gratitude improves your glucose control. It extends your lifespan. It helps with heart illness, fights depression and anxiety, makes you more patient. So there's a lot of things that gratitude does. And it really, no matter how many times they study this, they find it helps you a lot, especially for the world that we are living in. And that can be as simple as, taking a second. Like you don't have to have this formal sit down and write it. Kate and I ask each other every night, what are you grateful for today? So
And it's
gratitude,
really quick.
yeah, it's so
Again.
fast. And that, minute and a half that it takes really could change your entire perspective.
Mhm.
I've actually found that's why I like to do it in the morning as well, because starting your day with that more optimistic outlook, it helps me carry that into my day.
Yeah, it sets the tone.
Yeah, for sure. And then the other one is reading. So, and again, I want to kind of illustrate, like, these things sound very simple, very basic, but this is, again, like when I studied ultra healthy, ultra wealthy, this is what they're doing because it trains their focus. And that kind of goes to like ancient teachings about, you know, self-actualization and everything. The power that you have is your attention.
Mhm.
Um, so don't overlook these because they seem simple or boring. I mean, there's a lot of self-discovery that happens here. So reading is a big one. That really trains your focus, and they have found that reading is actually kind of on par with like yoga or humor for relieving stress.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of things there that are kind of just you sitting by yourself, having a moment.
Yeah. I've been reading so much more lately, and I've always enjoyed reading, like, really educational stuff about anything holistic living, food, mindset, work, just personal development, like, everything. But I've also been getting more into, like, fiction books,
Yeah.
and it's so nice, like, I get to kinda just relax and, it's like you put yourself in a story, and it really, it's different than, like, watching a show on Netflix where you're watching a story and it's kinda just all over the place and
Yeah.
your mind's going everywhere. Like, reading is really I don't know, it's just a different way of really enjoying yourself.
Yeah. There's two things I want to say about that. Number one, reading something like a fiction book is actually training your visualization
Mm.
techniques as
Oh,
well
yeah.
because you're using your imagination, you're creating that world and,
The
and having
characters, yeah.
a perception of what that all looks like to you. The other thing is that when you read, it's always fascinated me that there's so many different things, right? Like you could read a sci-fi book, you could read a fantasy book, you could read a romance book, you could read nonfiction or a biography. All of those things behave very differently in terms of your perception
Mhm,
and what kind of tools you need. Like if you're reading for education, you're not necessarily flexing that visualization muscle, but depending on what you read, you could be immersed in a totally different world. And I think that's really cool. and it's different from just watching TV because you're kind of given the parameters when you're watching a show
Mm,
of what everything looks like.
right?
Anything else on reading, gratitude, journaling, stream of consciousness writing?
No?
All right. Up next, using your senses. So this kind of comes from our stress management speech, where we kind of gave some really good examples on how you can kind of use your senses to ground you and reduce stress. So, do you want to kind of speak to that?
Yeah, so when you're actually, like, really focusing on your senses, like you just mentioned, it's a way of helping yourself feel more grounded, more present, and it's a way of self-soothing, and, really starting to reset your nervous system, bring you back to rest and digest state. So, some things you can do, and again, this is kind of another thing that's a practice, like, we have 5 senses. Figure out which ones resonate with you and, put your focus into trying some things when you are feeling stressed. So,
Before you get into them, I want to also again reiterate and kind of emphasize these things help you become present
mhm,
again.
right.
So they're things you're currently experiencing that pull you back into that present moment versus when you're stressed, you're typically looking forward. You're usually anxious.
Yeah. Um, so for smell something that makes you just feel all sorts of different emotions, like your favorite food. Go outside and smell fresh air.
Could be essential oils.
Mhm.
Mm.
A candle if it's non-toxic.
That's
Um,
tough.
and then so touch your if you have, children, your baby, your dog, hug your dog, um, hug a friend, hug a partner. All of these will release oxytocin, which is a happy hormone,
Your love hormone
love
makes you
hormone.
feel all warm and fuzzy.
Yeah. Sight. So look at something that brings you joy. Maybe you're looking up just nice pictures online or you're going through your photo album and reminiscing on things, or just going somewhere and going to a location that has like a beautiful landscape that you can take in the scenery.
Yeah, maybe you've got a spot that feels good.
Yeah. Taste, eating foods that make you feel good, not necessarily for a dopamine hit like, candy or sweets, but just foods that like make you feel comforted and nourished, or drinking some tea. There's so many different like relaxing teas that you can have that
Mm.
it's going to be the taste part that's enjoyable as well as like it's actually bringing you some positive effects too.
If you're looking for something like tea or a supplement to consume that'll chill you out, you can check out valerian. That's usually a little more for sleep. But passion flower is a great one that'll help you kind of chill out quite a bit. Lavender.
I love lavender.
Lavender's been clinically studied to be as effective as Ativan, which is a benzodiazepine with a lot of side effects, and L-theanine, which is present in tea, but it really makes you kind of calm down. So there's a lot of options there. I won't get into those in future episodes too.
And then your fifth one is hearing. So listening to uplifting music, or just your favorite music.
Yeah.
Or you can even put on like different frequencies. I forget the number, but there's like really specific frequencies that you
Hmm.
can search on YouTube for that help bring your mind back into a more relaxed state.
When you're if you're in doubt and you can't get to a specific frequency, classical music is
Mm,
generally going to contain the frequencies that you need. So I used to work with a lot of classical music and just kind of have it on while I was working. Um, that sounded like I worked with classical music, but I don't. Um, but there's also been studies on like how classical music has helped crops grow faster and helped babies in the womb. So
yeah.
classical music, I feel like it's kind of a stigma. Like people are like, oh, I don't want to listen to that old timey music. But when you start incorporating lyrics, it changes the frequencies a lot. And so a lot of classical music is your piano and an orchestra, and those sound frequencies are very beneficial to calm you down.
Yeah. So as far as, this using your senses, like I said, try different ones, practice, and see which one can actually help you and make you feel better
Yeah.
when
Like
you're
me
dealing with stress.
me personally, it's usually music. That's something that generally works for me. Um, or smell. Essential oils always get me. We used to have those little diffusers by our desk.
Yeah.
We would just open up. If I was ever stressed, I would just kind of take a sniff. Anything else on connecting with your senses?
No.
All right. Next is organization. So, you and I are both type A people that just love when things are organized and clean and well kept.
Mhm.
Um,
Which definitely helps us in our house and
yeah, in
um
our business.
this is, this is a physical thing that you have to, do, but it translates to helping you feel mentally calm.
Yeah, I don't have the link or the study, but years ago when I was running my self help blog, I did read a study um, on physical order. So, cleaning your environment and having it feel well kept and comfortable translates to mental order.
Yeah.
It helps you feel better
Yeah.
and more organized mentally.
Right. So that's things in your home being in order and organized and clean.
Yeah, pick
But
up the counter, guys.
throw things away. I'm such a huge person of getting rid of things that like I don't need and like it just like decluttering and getting
the
rid of stuff and
the amount
yeah.
of weekends where we have just like given something away
Yeah.
or sold it or thrown it out. And we both look at each other after and we're just like, that feels so good.
Yeah. I'm glad we're on the same page with that.
Except my shoes. Okay, so Kate and I have this running joke in the house where she tells me, don't put it down, put it away.
It's a good one.
It's a
Take that
really,
into
yeah.
your, way of keeping your house clean and orderly.
And sometimes I just don't feel like putting it away right then. So I,
Mm.
I joke and I say, I got it. Don't put it down. Don't put it away. Put it down. And I reverse it. And she's fed up of it, but it's hilarious every time
Yeah.
until I then feel the clutter
Yeah. 6
and it
pairs of
needs
shoes in
to
different
move.
spots
Yeah.
or jackets on chairs, yeah. But in terms of, there's home organization, but there's also organization within your job, your work, your career.
I want
A
to go ahead.
As someone who did project management for 9 years,
Yeah.
that was literally my job to organize projects, and I will tell you, like, there are a lot of people that I've heard from who have jobs and, like, there is no sense of project management, and, like, that
No,
is a role that is important, but if you don't have someone doing that for you, whatever your role is, like, there's something that you can do to help yourself through that.
I want to say too, though, I feel like project manager is such a disservice to what you do and what that role entails because it's not like you're managing a project. You are managing a boatload of people to make sure that their tasks all happen in succession, uh, factoring in dependencies and timelines for each individual task. Like
Mhm.
it's far more complex than I think project manager actually says. Project manager sounds like I don't know, like a sales associate, but it wouldn't run without you.
Yeah.
Um, and so I want to mention there, so we've used project management softwares in our businesses for many years now. And I never had that sort of structure when I was freelancing. And it completely blew me away how organized everything can be and how seamless you can make your work and your job and knowing what's happening when.
Mhm.
Um, but even in our consulting, there were employees at the organization who started to use project management software. And I can't recommend this enough. Like, if you're feeling overwhelmed by what you have going on at work, look at a project management software, get yourself set up in it, and give it a shot, give it a serious shot,
Mhm.
because it really could change your work life in being able to look and see, this is my workload. Here's my queue. Here's what's coming up. And you get a new task. You have the ability to look and say, no, I can't get to that till next week.
Yeah.
So it also helps you manage expectations with, your team, clients, people you're reporting to.
Right. And then, um, back to home organization, but in a different way, like just organizing in terms of meal planning. I used to do this a lot more and a lot better, like actually planning out what I was going to be cooking. Um, but it's definitely something that can be really helpful. It saves you time too, because you're not spending time thinking about what you're making.
Right.
Um, and then just organizing like chores that need to get done and everyone's busy schedules and what activities and appointments are happening.
Yeah. So, I mean, we've talked about that in the past, but like really sitting down and consciously planning, like what chores are getting done, who's doing what kind of time commitment are we each putting toward it.
Everything that we have like is in our calendars. We always, invite each other to those tasks, to appointments, work,
Yeah.
schedule things. Like everything is organized. And, like John said, we're both kind of type A, so it works. But
I
I
think,
can't imagine with, having children and having activities for them and appointments for them. And
and not having it organized. Like,
yeah,
I we have found so much in business where people just kind of are like, yeah, I'll do this. And it doesn't get done. And there's no communication, or they don't actually know what they have on their plate, or they're just agreeing to things and not actually getting them done. And frankly, like being organized, I feel like people have turned this into like, oh, I'm not an organized person. Well, that's kind of like, this is how I am, take it or leave it. Like,
mhm.
you're fixed. Like, get a growth mindset and get organized. It makes your life easier. It also makes other people's lives easier when they have to deal with you. Um, the other thing that I do to stay organized that has helped me a lot, well, it's kind of home organization, but I use a voice recorder that I just always have in my pocket. And then when I do my morning pages and I sit down to write, I go through that, I organize it, put things in folders, I assign tasks. So Kate and I also use an app. We use Microsoft To Do, but there's other apps like it, where you can just organize things, your personal tasks and things that you have going on, rather than like the dedicated business project management software. You can build lists and say, like, this is the house list, this is the stuff for our dogs, this is, our finance lists. And you can sit down and really organize everything that has to get done, and you can work together to do it. And then every day you have a my day screen, so you actually go through, you put all those tasks on there, and you say, this is what I'm getting done today.
Yeah, there's also reminders, I believe is the like native app on iPhones.
Yep. Yep. There's one on Android too. There's a lot of ways to do it, but I think frankly at its core, like, we're just trying to say, get your life organized. Like, it helps tremendously. But also, if you're someone who's trying to create some change in your life, you're going to need to manage your time. You're going to need to really see time and respect time as a resource that you're allocating.
Yeah.
So having that organization allows you to do that much more efficiently.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned time because it is about time management and being more proficient in that. And like you said, when you actually know what's going on in a day, what needs to get done, then you're able to manage your time more efficiently.
Yeah. And again, expectations, managing expectations with other people, with yourself,
Hmm.
and being able to really know what has to get done, what can get pushed, because that'll happen too.
Yeah.
Um, Last subject is affirmations and self talk.
Yeah. Do you want to?
No, go ahead.
So, affirmations, there's a lot of ways that you can go about this, but, I've heard people say, "No, those don't work." But it's also about a practice
Yeah.
because it's the repetitiveness, the consistency of using affirmations in a way that is supporting, the feelings that you want to feel, the ways you want to talk about yourself or about your goals and believing in yourself, creating change in your life. When you start to do those things and have an affirmation that you really are able to connect with, then it helps you to connect with the feelings of it, which again goes back to manifesting.
Right. We talked about that in episode 4. The science here is connecting with the belief and the feeling, because that is what attunes you to those thoughts, to those frequencies, to actually create that outcome.
Right. And connecting with, like you wrote, the identity
Yeah.
that you want to embody, that you want to be. So it's about having and choosing affirmations that feel right to you, and whether you are journaling about them every day or I wrote little sticky notes for you that
You
I put
did.
at your desk a few
Yeah.
times, about things that you were maybe struggling with that you were actually like getting stressed about. And I put them right at your desk so that you're kind of reminded. So put them on your bathroom mirror, put them at your desk, put them in places where you will see them and read them. And it's a really great way to remind yourself and kind of help yourself go back to the present moment to be like, oh, yeah, that's a good reminder.
But also, this is what I want to feel. This
Yeah.
is what I choose to feel.
Right.
And the thing I love with the sticky notes is you read it instinctually when you see it.
Hmm.
So you can kind of just be like, you wrote one for my desk. I don't remember exactly what it was. Oh, I was getting stressed because I was not in the work at all. Um, I was just really coasting, and I was concerned about getting enough hours. So I like we were hitting the end of our cycle, and you wrote me a sticky note that said something like, the hours will flow freely or something. And so what happened was, as I was getting there and I was getting back to my desk and sitting down every day, I would see that and I would read it out loud. And we've talked about this too, is when you actually speak it, you're giving it much more power.
Hmm.
So that helped me tremendously, get my hours back up, and I got caught up. There was like a bunch of campaigns I had to build that I got done. Um, but the sticky notes, I just really love them. They're a great little hack that you can use, because like I said, when you see it, you want to read it. You Oh, what does that say again?
Hmm.
And you read it out loud, you give it power, and you spend at least 10 seconds contemplating what it says and what you feel from that.
Hmm.
So it's such a quick, easy way to start to incorporate affirmations into your life and your routine.
Yeah. And then tying it back to neuroplasticity again, like the repetitiveness of any sort of affirmation that you are saying for yourself will continue to help build that new pathway in your brain so that you really do align more with that and live more in that.
Yeah. And, if you're having negative thoughts and you write these positive affirmations for yourself to see, you are starting to rewrite that script. You're actually preventing your brain from firing those neural networks and refocusing your attention
Hmm.
on this new affirmation, which would, I would imagine, be more positive.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's a lot of little things you can do to really start to reduce the mental aspect of stress that you're feeling.
Hmm.
Um, and also, really, if you're listening to this, you're probably seeing a lot of it is more about your perspective and your thoughts, your mental chatter, your self talk.
Yeah. So it's really having like those reminders, whether again you do sticky notes or you're journaling them down. Um, it's a reminder to put yourself back into the place that you want to be in and the
Yeah.
thoughts that you want to have. And, cutting through that clutter of 60,000 plus thoughts a day and conducting your mind to choose the thoughts that really serve you.
Yeah. Anything else on affirmations and self-talk?
No, not for me.
I actually do have one more thing.
Go for it.
When you are dealing with your self-talk, we've talked about having an awareness in your life. Refiring or firing new neural networks is as simple as having that awareness and being able to say, if I am stressed, right, and I catch myself because I'm aware, take that and as an exercise, try to make it something positive.
Mhm.
You're not going to believe it the first few times, I'll tell you flat out. But the more you do it, the more you start to choose the positive. Eventually, you will reach a point where you actually do believe it and you feel those feelings of being positive about it. And you notice the difference in your life, in your world. That is literally how I went from tons of medication, self harming, depressed all the time, drinking all the time, just really and truly starting to catch my thoughts and my self talk and being able to twist it into something positive
Yeah,
until I eventually started believing it.
right. But it's also like you are in control of what wording you do use.
Yeah.
So, if you're stressed, maybe you're not going to believe, I am calm, and like repeating that when you're
Right.
not feeling that. But you can, you can word it differently and say, like, I can do something to make myself feel better. I can choose to focus on my breath and
I
calm
choose
myself.
a
Right.
lot
Yeah.
because it's very empowering. So, like, when I was anxious a lot, for example, I I would actually tell myself I choose safety.
Mhm.
I choose to feel safe.
Which is huge for your nervous system because that is the number one thing it wants.
Yeah. So there's a lot of ways to rewrite that script. Another quick example, I always go to the morning commute. I'm stressed. There's traffic. Whatever. I'm gonna get in trouble. I'm late to work. Versus catching yourself and just saying it's fine. There was traffic. That's not in my control.
Mhm.
My boss can understand it or they can't. But either way, I don't have control over
Yeah.
the traffic
Yeah. Using affirmations to remind yourself, like, that is out of my control. So I'm going to let it go.
and what you're choosing instead, which is what you can control, which
Yeah.
is usually your thoughts.
Right. And your reactions.
Yeah. That's all I got for today.
Me too.
All right. Friendly reminder, this podcast is sponsored by New Moon Apparel. That is our Zen, motivation, and moon themed clothing line. You can shop designs at newmoonapparel.com. If this podcast brought you value, please consider sharing with your network, liking, and leaving a review. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.